So it's been a long time. A very long time. I moved. I got dumped. I moved back. I stayed in a hospital for a little bit. And now I'm just back in New York, trying to figure out what that means. My life went upside down, essentially. And right now I am single for the first time in 9.5 years. Mama's gonna take your collar off so we don't jingle the whole time. For people who were familiar with me and my relationship, we were very much in a place where we established that we were going to be married very early on. That was always the idea. So, despite difficulties happening, I was always in that mindset. Like, for better, for worse, this is the person I'm going to marry no matter what. So, deal with it in terms of the hardships that came, right? So now, I have been single for 10-ish months. So I've always been like a serial monogamist. I feel like I had a lot of like 1 month things with people. And then I had 2 back-to-back serious relationships, including the one that I was in for 9.5 years. So now I am dating again and failing a lot and messing up a lot, and I just don't know how to do the thing because I never thought I'd have to do the thing. I always told myself, like, oh, I could never go on an app. I'm so thankful I have my person. Like, I could never do an app. That's so weird. Here I am, a place that I never thought I'd be in is where I am. But something I know for sure, and that I figured out, is that I'm not a casual person. I can't just have something with no strings attached. I have known myself to be a very hopeless romantic in high school. My plays for like Thinking of You by Katy Perry and Hopelessly Devoted by Olivia Newton-John and like Now That We're Done by Metro Station, because those are my songs that I would play over and over and just be depressed, because I've always been a person with so much love to give, and I feel like it just never in the end paid off. With relationships I've been in the past, like, totally have felt great at first, but then they end because they have a reason to end, and that's where you feel like romance is dead, love is dead, there's no hope for anything. I really felt that. Like, I'm very dedicated to the person that I care about, so I wouldn't be able to just, like, casually do something and not have feelings towards someone. I love very strong, and even before you say like the words, I am feeling something strong towards a person if I'm putting time into them. So from all of that, I know that one day I will be in a relationship again, and there are things that I want to remind myself when I am further down the line of things, because in my last relationship, there were a lot of things I put up with because, like, you love them, so you deal with their flaws. And I agree with that to an extent. I think I let too much slide. Way too much slide. So I kind of want to remind myself now to not put up with crap that is just too much and too overwhelming. And even if I think I'm going to marry someone, it doesn't mean that I have to deal with all the baggage. So, here are the things that my single self want to remind my future in a relationship self. Was that wordy enough for you? So I feel like there are tons of things that are easy to forget when you're deep in the relationship. My experience has been that now that I am many months away from my past relationship, I am able to see all of the red flags. There is this awesome BoJack Horseman quote. I'll put it here. It's like my favorite thing ever, and I entirely agree with it, with this situation, because it's really like when you love someone, you're not seeing the red flags. Like, you really are looking past it. And then when you're finally far away from a bad situation, you're able to see it, and it's so unfortunate and so upsetting. There are many things that you can get under the impression that are just part of the deal of being in a relationship when that actually isn't the case. There's a certain level of crappiness that you don't have to deal with because you're going to marry them, because you've been with them long term, because you're committed to them, because you have a house, because you have kids, whatever. You need to find that line of where it's difficulties and them being an inappropriate partner in whatever relationship you have. So, let's get started and go through some of the things that I've come up with.
Disclaimer. Please do not send any hate to the people referenced in this video. This video is meant to provide insight on a situation, and the examples given do not represent a sole individual or entity.
So, number 1, be mindful of the feelings of the other person, even if they are not expressing themselves. So, when you know someone well enough, you will be able to kind of understand when they are feeling negatively or are feeling a certain way, but they aren't expressing it. They aren't able to say, I'm feeling upset about the relationship. I'm feeling upset about this. Sometimes it's unfortunate, but you have to do a little bit of mind reading and a little bit of probing. And for me, as a social worker, that's very much a part of like my inner being. So I'm able to do that fairly easily. But I can imagine for other people that it's probably not that easy. So I really want to throw some empathy out there because this isn't something that's going to come easy. This whole video is about putting an effort to try and be in the healthiest relationship possible and to not get caught in unhealthy traps. Be mindful of their feelings. Kind of take note, like, are they able to express themselves? Are they just lying? Like, what is the deal here? Being aware of that. If they are obviously unhappy with the relationship, but you ask them and they say no, be aware of that. Most conversations shouldn't be an argument. I think it's normal to have disagreements and arguments and things of that sort. When things get violent and physical and manipulative and emotionally harmful, that's too far. When that's happening often, and you'll know what often is for your life. If you are working with your partner in a business sense, then you know, oh, maybe we're going to have small disagreements every single day, and that makes sense for you. But if you're having fights over, like, values in your relationship, and it's coming up fairly often, maybe that's something to consider. And to kind of go along with that, relationships can change with months, years, and other circumstances. Growing up, I had to learn, because I was with the same person from when I was 18 years old. And now I am 28. Things change. I will say that I feel like in my relationship, we were on the same page for the first half, like the first 5 years. And then, like, the last, like, 4.5 was just, like, a gradual downward into a mess. So I think it's important to kind of be aware of where you're at. For me, I was obviously in a very long situation, so there's a lot of time to change and to grow. And even just thinking about just what I did in the amount of time, he was with me when I graduated high school, college, and graduate school. And then we moved away together. Just saying those things, not including all of the funerals he came with me to, all of these other things. Like, people will be there through life things, but their perspective might change, and your perspective might change. You might totally want kids, and then you totally might not want kids. Just keep that in mind, that people's minds can change, and that's okay. And this was going back to what I was discussing before. Do not look past abusive, manipulative, or inappropriate behavior. You understand in your relationship what certain things mean. Maybe something doesn't mean I need to leave immediately, this relationship is over, that's it. Maybe it does. It really depends on what you're used to, how you communicate, how things are. For me, I think I should have taken something as a sign, and I didn't. And I was still in the place where I wanted to stick it out and support him, and again, look past a negative situation to try and be there for him. But realistically, he didn't want to be there. He didn't know how to express it. And it just continued to result in anger. If something happens once, just be mindful of the fact that it did happen. Be aware if it happens again. If it happens again in a different way. If it happens again to someone else in your circle. Maybe you weren't hit, but maybe something was broken. Maybe you weren't treated a certain way, but another loved one was. It's important to be aware and to be cautious. And for some people, that means leaving right away. For other people, that means being cautious and sticking it out. That's something that you need to figure out for yourself, for your family, for your specific situation, what is going to work best. Take into consideration mental health and medical conditions, but allow them to be explanations and not excuses. I love this idea when it comes to mental health. I always think about the idea that you can understand when something is happening because of a person's symptoms, but that doesn't mean that they can get away with it or that it's acceptable. So, someone is acting inappropriate towards you, and you know that that's a symptom of something they're struggling with. It's a symptom of something medical, mental, whatever the circumstance is. It's an explanation, but it does not let them get off with treating you a certain way. Because someone has manipulation as a symptom of their borderline personality disorder, it doesn't mean that it's okay for them to be manipulative. You acknowledge that it's happening because that's the disorder they have, but it's not acceptable in the relationship. So that's where it comes in, where it's important that people are getting treatment. You're not supposed to be your partner's therapist. It doesn't work. Everyone needs a little help to some degree, and it's good to have that support outside of just two partners. Explanations are not excuses. Does not excuse their behavior. Does not excuse them hurting you. Does not excuse them acting out and doing this or that. It's an explanation. Now, this one is so significant for me specifically. Be a part of a relationship while also being yourself. I personally have a lot of identity issues. I went through phases of my life where I belonged to things and I felt very connected to people. A lot of people on this channel are aware of like the peer counseling stuff I did, which my whole heart was in that, and like my identity was with that. So when I graduated, it was something hard, very hard to deal with. And in relationships, you end up identifying so much with T and K, that T and K are a thing, that they're a partnership, that they live together, that they always go together, whatever. And then when T and K are finally not together anymore, what the hell does that mean for, just saying, me, who doesn't have an identity really anywhere else, where I struggle with friendships and being part of a community at this point in my life and hobbies and things like that. That's an area for me that I know is difficult, and losing my relationship of almost a decade, I lost myself because I was in that partnership. I was planning to be his wife. That was just it. That was just part of the whole plan. So to not have that anymore was so difficult. So difficult. So you need to find yourself as an individual. You need to have hobbies. You need to have community outside of maybe relationship friends that you double date with, whatever. You need to have your own group, your own people that you come back to, your own hobby, your own family group, whatever it is. You just need to have your own. It's so important to have your own. Losing one person should not mean that you lose everything. And sometimes in situations like mine, that's kind of what happened. And would not recommend. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. My closing statements with this are to be flexible, communicative, honest, and empathetic. I think I put all of those words on my dating profile because those are just so significant for me. What was tough in my relationship is that I would constantly ask him if he felt comfortable in the relationship, like, listen, I know we have blah 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 happening, but do you still feel okay with us? And he would always say yes. And he would genuinely convince me that our relationship was good and we were on the path to marriage eventually, and we had our own shit happening, but it didn't have to do with the relationship. So when it suddenly happened and things very suddenly ended, it was confusing because I was always open and honest about how I felt, and I would always ask where he was at in terms of being honest about where he was with our relationship with himself. And I always told myself, oh, it's about him. He said it's about him. But going back on all these things that I've discussed, it's important to be aware of what's not being said. There was a lot that wasn't said. I don't think that it's the responsibility of everyone to be a social worker in their relationship. It's not. But I just wanted to put this out there for people who could potentially have an easier time navigating something so confusing, so heartbreaking, so difficult. This was an experience I never thought would happen. And it did. So I really just want to encourage honesty, talking it out, especially if you have a person who wants to listen to you and wants to work on things with you. That's the best kind of person. But if you have someone who doesn't want to communicate, who's not being honest, who is not being empathetic, that there's sadness in the situation, then those are some signs that things need to change, whatever that means for you. So I think that's about it for what I wanted to talk about in this video. Just to reiterate, I am totally 1,000,000% over my ex. I am so thankful for that. I am so happy. I am genuinely, like, over the moon. I just hope that my heart can give all the love it has to someone else. But going back, when I'm working on first, is giving love to myself. Because I deserve that.
That was hard to say.
Go give yourself some love today. Alright? Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Also, I totally forgot to plug youtube.com/theextras with a Z. I posted some vlogs when I was still in Florida, and then I'll be posting more on there now. A lot of mental health related stuff, and my most used social media at this point in my life is Instagram, so go follow me at KristenCorpse. For now, we're just sticking with it, right, Ripley? We're just sticking with it.